Hey friends. So I keep showing up to this post sort of in my immediate post-rehearsal state. That might be what happens for the next month or so. And what struck me today, so as I was driving home, I was thinking about, the nature of this post and what I'm doing with it. And I think, and sort of what showed up was this understanding or a sense that what I'm really doing when I do this post, and this is obviously a broader aspect of my life overall, but it's something that I think this post has really anchored me in for the past year, and which continues to clarify for me, sort of further intentions as I develop my practice to a certain level, to a certain place. It then informs me, oh, here's where it can go next, and I've experienced that in all sorts of ways over the course of the past year, and that's kind of continuing. And but the kind of central thing that I think I am doing consistently with the post is casting whatever has happened in my life or is happening in my life, challenges, events, things I'm celebrating, experiences, relationships, whatever it happens to be, through the lens of spiritual practice. And so, my creative work, it popped out of me one day that, oh, this is about creative spirituality. The sort of like omega point of that, or the alpha, I suppose, the beginning of this was a sense that by making meditation and spiritual practice central to my life, everything else became organized. Everything else naturally took its place within a hierarchy of priorities that reflects who I truly am and what I'm truly doing and what's truly important to me. They were the right priorities. It felt like I'm honoring what is truly most important to me, as opposed to knowing on some level what's most important to me, but not necessarily living that way. And so that's what this post has become for me, is a way of tying together the living of daily life and the various experiences that I'm having with that practice. So of course, no surprise, a fair amount of what I'm doing during my day is, it's creative work, or it's not necessarily always artistic, but it's, generally within a field of music, theater, writing kind of thing. So yesterday I was speaking about healing, and I was speaking about how this process of making theater, and really that it kind of counts for any collaborative art form. I know it kind of best from theater and music, but there's a healing that's almost inevitable if we know that that's what's happening. If we recognize that whatever everyone is bringing into the room is ultimately showing up because they are on some level, conscious or unconscious, requesting of the universe an opportunity to look at that and heal from it, to become free of it. And that, that really resonates with me, with how it really feels to do creative work in a group setting, and to have to navigate creative egos. Ultimately creative egos are not only inevitable, they're uh, they're important. They're desirable. We don't want people to not have their opinions, and we don't want people to not defend their opinions. We don't want people to not have powerful impulses. We want them to have all of those things. And then we need, in order to have effective collaboration, we need everyone to recognize what the boundary, where their own limits are, and to kind of, or at least be willing to accept that. That's one of the things that I find so, it's both where a lot of the beauty comes from in creative collaboration, and it's also where some of the dicey moments come from, which is that, the whole thing about, if we're showing up to heal some aspect of ourselves, then it's generally, and I'm talking, not strictly about physical healing, obviously, this could be psychological or emotional. There's going to be stuff showing up that we're either not quite conscious of, only partially conscious of, or even resistant to seeing. And you can, that can get dicey. Like if you find someone who's truly resistant to seeing something that actually on some level their soul is in the room to discover this and to find out what it is and to heal from it, but right now they're resisting even seeing it, you end up with a situation where we have to navigate that. But the thing is, what I was coming around to saying a moment ago is that that's all just part of the game. That's all just part of what's gonna happen. And we sort of like, I actually feel like creative leadership, which is something that I am called upon to exercise in this particular project. But although I'm not the overall, I'm not the director of the show, and the director of the show is actually, the kind of highest authority in the room, and should be, because somebody's got to hold that space, somebody's got to do that job. That leadership, if we approach that with the understanding that that's going to happen, in other words, we approach it with the understanding that some people are going to show up and they're going to have stuff to process, and they're not going to quite be able to get there. Then to vary, and we have that, as we bond with a group, our relationships are going to get deeper and deeper. We're going to see more and more who's really looking, and this, I'm deliberately trying to phrase all of this with absolutely zero judgment, because ultimately, what are we doing? Ultimately, we're healing the world. Ultimately, everybody gets to heal, whether you're resisting, whether you're totally in flow, whether you're fighting tooth and nail to hold on to something that you don't want to, ultimately, of course, I think it would certainly be worth reflecting on how each of us wants to show up, and how, smoothly we want to work through our issues, because resistance ultimately just kind of slows us down. But what I'm feeling in this moment where I'm re-entering collaboration in a deep way is how beautiful it is to see people making space for each other's healing to happen, and just being really wakeful and really acknowledging and really, both. I'm in the room with really smart people and really high caliber performers, musicians, and everyone, so far, knock on wood, but this is it's a group of people that I sense total trust that they are giving each other space, they're giving each other support, they're giving each other love, they're giving each other enthusiasm, that we're feeding off each other's energy in a way that is thoroughly inspiring, and that makes it then possible for people who, if someone were resisting, let's say, which that may very well happen, we're at the beginning of a process, and I would say it's unlikely that it won't happen. There's likely to be moments when any of us might resist something in the room. But we're making space for that to be okay too, and for all of us to kind of persevere together. And you know, I've got Trungpa's book True Perception, The Path of Dharma Art, lying on the table here in front of me. And I just as I was sitting down to do the post, I read the phrase "the path of Dharma art." You know, I call it creative spirituality, but Dharma art has a beautiful meaning in the sense of Dharma. You know, if the Dharma is in some ways, I mean, I actually am not entirely clear on the literal definition of Dharma, but I associate Dharma with two things. One, teaching and spiritual practice, spiritual wisdom. So in other words, we're receiving a spiritual instruction, whether from another human being or from a book or from the universe through intuition, as we engage in creativity. And I just find that a really beautiful image. And then there's also a meaning of Dharma, which I've always taken to sort of associate with our path. Dharma, like our Dharma is our path. It's different from our karma, which is our stuff to actually work on. But Dharma as our unique teaching, our particular spiritual journey. And that really resonates with me, that we would view creativity in such a way as to see it as our own particular journey, where we will inevitably, where we actually we desire most deeply to face the parts of ourselves that are dark, the parts of ourselves that are painful, the parts of ourselves that we may be resisting. You know, we show up to creative work with the intent to grow in ways that we have as yet been unable to. You know, there's always that line. There's always that, what's next? Oh, it's gonna challenge me. I was talking to a close friend this morning, and we were talking about, you know, someone in her life who really was very, very present for her and always offered that perspective. And she had the experience, which I totally resonated with, of almost avoiding the gaze of someone who's that wise and that knowledgeable. Because when we know we're in a place where we're not sure if we can face the darkness, that gaze can be intimidating, because we know that someone's going to see right through us. We know that we know that we can't hide from them. And I've had that experience with many teachers. You know, in a lot of ways, any great mentor becomes that, because we start to see, oh, they are seeing right through me. Like, they know I can't hide anything. And if the more spiritually mature we become, the more it's like, please give me those people. Please give me those teachers who can see right through us and who will actually call us on it, and who are not afraid to tell us the truth about ourselves in a gentle, loving way. But that doesn't mean the truth isn't going to create, you know, isn't going to be an intense thing to experience. But what I'm finding so beautiful in the last couple of days and today again is just the way in which we're all giving ourselves that gift. We're giving each other that gift and that space and that opportunity to do our journey, to do our work, to show up and be who we need to be and receive what we need to receive. So very cool, very fun. I speak in a German accent almost all day because the characters are German, so it's hard to sometimes shake that off at the end of the day. But I'm working on it. Thanks for watching, people. I appreciate you. As this post clarifies, all I ever am is more and more grateful for the fact that all of you are in my life, and that this is an ongoing practice, because it's offering so much. So thank you. Much love. I'll see you tomorrow.